Good evening, good morning, everyone. My name is Jerome Marty. I am the Executive Director of the International Associations for Great Lakes Research, joining you today from Ottawa in Canada, the unceded Anishinaabe territory of the Algonquin people. It is my great pleasure to moderate today's webinar, Braiding Knowledge Systems, Honoring Diverse Voices for Lake Resilience. This webinar is organized by the MAGIK Network, the Melding AquaWatch Global Indigenous Knowledge, that is made of 6 organizations from all over the world: the World Water Quality Alliance, WWQA, CSIRO in Australia, AquaWatch Australia, Geo Indigenous Alliance, and Geo AquaWatch and IAGLR. We organize this webinar thinking about 2 special days this month. First is World Lakes Day, August 27, which is the first time that we are celebrating lakes all over the world. And the second recognition is the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples that will be held on August 9. Today we're going to have remarks from our first speakers, Elizabeth Wambro, and I'm just going to go through the list of presenters first. Elizabeth is a Lector Kepala Associate Professor at the University Cenderawasih in Jayapura, Indonesia. We're going to be joined by Dani Radiansaya from the Embassy of Indonesia in Nairobi. Dani is the Deputy Permanent Representative for UNEP. We will have presentations from Lee McGaughey, who is the lead of the Water River Reports at the St. Lawrence River Institute in Ontario, Canada. And finally, we'll have presentations from Julia Obuya, who is a PhD student at Bowling Green State University, USA, and a research associate at the Kenya Marine and Fish Research Institute, CAMFRE. With this, I would like to invite Elizabeth to start us in a good way with some opening remarks. Thank you, Elizabeth. And we're going to all learn Indonesian, I believe.
Hue foi na neme. Good night in Sentani tribe, because tonight I will talk about Sentani tribe, but I will use Indonesian for acknowledge. Selamat malam semuanya. Yang terhormat Bapak Ibu sekalian yang hadir di sini. Kami sebagai bangsa Indonesia, khususnya Papua, mengakui keberadaan masyarakat adat karena kami mengetahui, kami percaya bahwa masyarakat adat merupakan satu kesatuan yang tidak terpisahkan dari alam, hutan, tanah, dan air. Dengan menjaga nilai-nilai masyarakat adat yang telah diwariskan dari para nenek moyang yang terdahulu, berarti kita bisa menjaga alam ke depannya, karena masyarakat adat merupakan satu kesatuan yang tidak terpisahkan. Menjaga menjaga alam berarti kita menjaga keberadaan masyarakat adat. Menjaga keberadaan masyarakat adat, kita mempertahankan alam dan menciptakan keberlanjutan buat generasi selanjutnya. Dengan demikian, pada diskusi malam ini, sangat senang bisa bergabung dengan seluruh masyarakat adat yang ada di seluruh dunia. Marilah kita sama-sama berkolaborasi untuk menciptakan kehidupan yang lebih baik dengan mempertahankan nilai-nilai budaya yang ada. Demikian, terima kasih. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Next, I would like to invite Dani, who is going to give a few welcoming remarks from Indonesia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greetings from Nairobi. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizer who have invited me to participate and deliver an opening remark at this webinar. Distinguished participants, Indonesia is a home of an abundance of natural resources including a remarkable collection of more than 800 lakes scattered across the nation's diverse landscape. Lakes play a vital role in maintaining ecological balance, protecting biodiversity, and supporting socio-economic activities for communities who live nearby. Lakes in Indonesia serve as indispensable components of the country's environment, acting as a reservoir of fresh water and habitats for countless species. They regulate water flow, prevent flooding, recharge groundwater, and serve as filters by trapping sediments and pollutants. For example, Lake Toba in North Sumatra, the largest volcanic lake in the world, plays a significant role in providing water resources for surrounding communities while supporting the region's microclimate. For communities living near lakes, these bodies of water are lifelines that offer multifaceted socio-economic benefits. Lake Toba also attracts visitors from across the world, boosting local economics through ecotourism, hospitality, and cultural experiences. On the other hand, lakes are facing various challenges. Climate change poses a dire threat to Indonesia's lakes. Rising temperatures and altered precipitation patterns disrupt the hydrological cycle, leading to reduced water level and increased evaporating rates. Pollution is also another major challenge plaguing Indonesia's lakes. For instance, Lake Rawapening in central Java has become severely polluted due to unchecked industrial discharge and eutrophication caused by excessive nutrient inflow. Overfishing, deforestation, and also irresponsible tourism practices contribute to the degradation of lake ecosystem. For instance, deforestation around Lake Sentani has caused soil erosion and sedimentation, reducing its capacity to support aquatic life. Indonesia sees that these challenges happen not only in Indonesia, but also in many other lakes across the world. So in 2022, at the UNEA 5.2 here in Nairobi, Indonesia proposed a draft resolution on sustainable lake management. It was adopted by UNEA on 2nd of March 2022 as UNEA Resolution 5/4. This resolution highlights the call to protect, conserve, and ensure the sustainable use of lakes, and underscores the important role of lakes in supporting the attainment of the SDGs. From there, Indonesia has been very active to promote the implementation of this resolution. We organized a side event at the sideline of the UN Water Conference 2023, and then we take it to the 10th World Water Forum in Bali in Indonesia in May 2024, where the ministerial declaration of that meeting proposed the World Lake Day in the United Nations process to highlight the role of natural and artificial lakes as significant water resources that contribute to the availability and accessibility of water. Finally, in December 2024, the UNGA adopted Resolution 79/142, designated 27 August as World Lake Day to be observed annually. This is a historic milestone for global lake conservation. Distinguished participants, in closing, I would like to reiterate our thanks for this opportunity to share Indonesia's views on World Lake Day. I hope that my presentation can trigger questions, ideas, and actions for you to discuss further on how we can commemorate the first ever World Lake Day in a meaningful day and provide benefits for all stakeholders. I wish you productive discussion. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Danny. And again, congratulations to Indonesia for proposing this this day. Of course, everyone is very excited on this call. Thank you again for the remarks. I'm going now to turn back to Elizabeth, who will be giving the first presentation. I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. I'm not sharing the right screen, I think. 1 second.
We see the presenter notes.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, sure. We're going to do this one. Can I get a confirmation that this is okay?
Not yet.
It's loading. There we go, it's done.
Thank you. You go ahead, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pak Dani, for little bit introduce about Lake Sentani too. But before I continue, actually, as Pak Dani said, beside Indonesia, in Papua, we have a lot of lake, including Sentani Lake, including the Habema Lake, the most highest level on water lake in the really mountain, in the mountainous area. And also we have Rawa Biru Lake in Merauke, which is one of the Ramsar website area. Now I will presenting about the changing of sagu forest to the sedimentation level of Sentani Lake in Jayapura. Continue next. Yeah, as we know, as a mention of Pak Dani before, that Sentani Lake is one of the national priority to do the reduction of the quality of the lake. The lake have a length around 26.8 from the east to the west, and then around 19 kilometers to the north to the east, located in 4 districts in 2 regency, Kabupaten Jayapura and Kota Jayapura. And then it's a part of river basin, Membramo, Tamit, and Afapur. And then they have a really large area because, as I know, Sentani Lake is the second after Toba Lake from Sumatra. And then they have 14 water seat, which into Sentani, so 14, but only one the outlet of the Sentani Lake. And then the mountain is like one ecosystem to the Cyclop Mountain. So I mean, like between the mountain and the lake, it's one unity and ecosystem, and then it's really important for the Sentani tribe. You can continue. Yes, this is the mapping of the 14 water seats, and then we can continue. This is about the land use of the Sentani Lake. So I mean, like around the Sentani Lake, which is now a lot of changing land use. So we can see from the east to the west, almost the development located in the middle, while in the east they still keep some sagu forest, and then in the west part still have sagu forest. But in the middle, in the red area, almost the housing and settlement. And then before I continue, actually the Sentani tribe, they live inside the water body, inside the Sentani Lake. There is around, I think, 25 villages in the Sentani Lake. And then we can continue. So the people live with the slick houses above the water. So for the Sentani Lake, they have function as ecology, as we know, and then social and economic. And then the indigenous people in that area called Sentani tribe or Buyaka. Bu in Sentani mean water, in Yaka people. So they call their name as what is people from the water, because they really depend on the water and then unity with the water. And then they have some Sentani, they have the institution customary. They call the head of the tribe as Ondofolo. In Ondofolo have some helper. So they already have their management in institution. They have one staff to manage the land, the forest, to manage the people, even to manage the norm, and when they have a meeting. And then they also have the concept of Sonasi concept. They call Kani He Klahe, how they use the land. So because the Sentani tribe, they know where they will put their living, how they have to do cultivation, and then they have some part to take off the material for wooden for the housing, and then they have above the Cyclop Mountain as the sacred place. And then we can continue. Next. And then they have the the administrative stuff regarding how to they manage natural resources, how their political function, and then they have a social function. This is the picture of the house. This is three type of the house. For example, the first combo is like the house for the man for initiation, and then the kogo they have for the living, and then the next one for the obe they have meeting room when they're gathering to discuss about anything problem. We can continue. Okay, about my research, actually right now a lot of changing land use either in Cyclop Mountain or Sargu, and then it's increase the sedimentation of the water. And then there we want to see how the impact of the Sargu forest to the level of the sedimentation. Next. This is actually some method. So I mean, like I do interview for several years and then combined with the government. We call the Balai Sungai, the department from the government who concerned about the river. Pada Nino ya, Balai Wilayah Sungai. And then this is they do from the Balai Wilayah Sungai, they do research to check the depth of the lake. And then we can continue. And I do some interview with the local and then with local village government. And then we can continue. Next. Yeah. And then the result from the 14 river, the sedimentation around 256.360 meter cubic per year. And then we know there's a lot of changing land use in Sentani Lake. We can see like above 5.3 in 2015, and then around 5 2010, 2012. And then previous several of my students do the research. I mean, like they increase a lot of changing land use in Sentani due to development. Then we can continue. Yeah, this is what is the land cover of this Sentani. We can continue. Yeah. This is from the picture, we can see the difference of the depth of the Sentani Lake. And then the problem, you can continue the next slide. There is the problem, previous Sentani Lake have the, depth around 70 meters. But right now only 58, or right now only 51. So I mean, like during more than 10 years, we have a lot of sedimentation and then make soil more than 10 meter. And then last time I interview with some some elder from Sentani tribe. They said that because of the Sentani Lake have the problem beside the pollutant and then the sedimentation, they have a problem with the indigenous people. Why? Because the people really depend on the water. A lot of aquatic biodiversity lose, for example, or reduce. For example, previous they have like the shark we call shark, hammer shark in Sentani Lake, but right now already extinct. And then a lot of the aquatic biodiversity extincting too. So I mean, like, but the important thing of this study is the area that they still keep the sagu, the Sentani Lake still have the depth like around 14 to 50 or 45 to 51. But in the area they already changing the land use, the depth of Sentani only still 10 to 20 meter. And then it's really, what is the problem for the local too, because they use the Sentani Lake extra transportation too. As I said, that a lot of people live inside the lake. And then, yeah, and then you can continue. This is some picture, the changing land use. Yeah. So I mean, like based on the research, and then we discussed too with the government that actually the value of the tribe that they keep maintaining the sagu, we can reduce the sedimentation. And it really less costly compared to the what is the building, the building to protect the from the sedimentation. So I mean, like with a sago plant is one of the nature-based solution for the lake in the world to improve the quality of the lake. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. We're going to move along and keep the questions for the end. And I'm going to invite Lee McGaughey to share the next presentations about the Great River reports. And Lee, you should be able to share your screen.
Is it shared, Jerome?
Yes, it is. You're all good to go. Thank you, Lee.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to share with you this project that I'm working on, Honoring Freshwater, a case study of the Ganya Dala Wanene. And I'm presenting today on behalf of the Great River Report team. I wanted to start the presentation just with a reflection on World Lakes Day. So thank you for the introduction to this webinar and highlighting the importance of lakes. And this picture, I think, captures what we think of when we think of thriving freshwater ecosystems. And these are ecosystems where everything plays, you have rich biodiversity and every species in the system plays an important role. And we are reliant on freshwater. All terrestrial systems, as well as freshwater systems, rely on clean, good quality water. And it's amazing to reflect on water bodies across the globe and to understand how many of them are actually not in a position where you could drink them or animals can live safely in them. So we have a lot of pollution and contamination in waters. And as a scientist that has been an aquatic biologist, I'm always thinking, how do we help to make freshwater systems healthy? And it goes back to, we need policies in place that can protect these systems. And how do we get policies in place? We need the political will to keep those policies. And for political will, we need to have communities that understand the importance, because it's really the communities that are going to make the pressure to keep these policies in place. So I wanted to just start with that and the importance of freshwater systems. And so I'm going to talk today about a project where we feel like the key to having healthy systems is having people engage with the science behind them and understanding the system so that they can then fight for them. So the area that I'm going to talk about today is on Turtle Island. So we're on North America, the region of the Great Lakes. So the Great Lakes St. Lawrence River Basin is the single largest watershed in the world. And this particular project is set in where the Great Lakes drain into the Atlantic Ocean. So it's the St. Lawrence River, and it includes sections that are riverine and also sections that are lake-like. It is also on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people. The region is actually identified as one of 43 areas of concern, and that means these are areas that are being recognized as being highly polluted. So over the last 200 years, we've had colonization of the region, and with that has come industry with effluence. We've got a lot of agricultural developments and also the development of the St. Lawrence Seaway, which allows a lot of ship traffic, which is really good for economic development, but it's not that great for the river system and the health of the system. And so I think everyone, attending this seminar already understands that our own health is intrinsically linked to the health of our environment. And so looking after and safeguarding our environment is very important. So the region that we're in around the St. Lawrence River has a lot of really engaged communities, both Indigenous and local communities. And I arrived into the area back in 2018. And there's a question, that remained unanswered for the Indigenous communities and the local communities, and that is, what is the health of the river? And the reason it's unanswered is because it's actually a complicated question to answer. And so although there was a lot of interest and science and programming that had been going on in the region for a long time, it's not that easy to find information that is shared in an accessible way for the public. And so this project was born. It's called the Great River Report, as Jerome mentioned, and it is an ecosystem health report. And we're so lucky to have Henry Lickers, elder of the Seneca Nation in the region, who had this vision of framing an ecosystem health report in the Ahanda Galawadakwa. So this is a Haudenosaunee teaching that acknowledges that all of creation fulfills their roles and responsibilities to each other. And the images you see here have been drawn by a local Indigenous artist, Victoria Ransom, and it reflects these different levels of the Thanksgiving address, which includes people and earth, water, fish, insects, the wildlife, winds, thunderers, sun, moon, stars, the four teachers, and the creator. And it was really a brilliant thing for, to frame the project in this way, because it really brings the Indigenous perspectives into the forefront for the project. We have another element of the project that I think is important, and that is that we work in a relational way. I'm grateful to Abram Francis for this slide. He's partnered on the project for the last 5 years, and he brings a lot of his insights. And one of the things that we do in the Great River Report is work in this relational way, so caring for each other, the environment, and for our kin. So the project started out by us asking the community what they cared about and what they wanted to know about. So we engaged with over 2,000 people, and we had 440 people fill in a survey to help us understand what people perceive to be the concerns and challenges of the region. So that took around 30 engagements over 2 years. And out of that engagement, we were able to select 35 ecological indicators. And these ecological indicators reflect they relate to contaminants, to various populations, and diversity indices, as well as invasive species, land use, and then also water. So really at the heart of this project is getting to the science of these 35 ecological indicators. But we understand that, for people to engage with something, we need to take a holistic approach. And so we have the Ahanda Galawadakwa, so this framing in the words that come before all else to provide us with a context, an Indigenous context. We have the science, and then we also engage throughout the project with community. So I'm excited to show you some of these elements today. We're talking about honoring diverse voices for lake resilience. And so I just want to highlight the various elements that we have included in this project. So this particular page is highlighting the science. So we have scientists that are working on each of those 35 ecological indicators. And this page is hopefully giving you the insight that, even in situations where you have science that's led by community questions, you can provide new knowledge to science. And so there's some really great examples of the papers that are on this page where we've had insights, not only that have come from the scientists, because we've started a report, for instance, Dr. Marianne Perron looked into yellow perch populations, and we were able to find trends for those populations, present them back to the data providers who gave us new insights, which added to the way we understood the system. We had academics adding other perspectives, and in fact, our final piece of the puzzle came together when we presented this work to the public, and in return, they gave us further insights. So it's been really exciting to see that we're able to break new ground in scientific discovery through this project. I'm very grateful to the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. Peggy Pike Thompson, Abram Francis, and Kayla Sunday have each been the lead of the environment program at MCA for the time that we've been running this project. And Abe continues to work with us through the Illunia Collective. And yeah, it's been really humbling for me. I come from elsewhere. I'm new to the region, and I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to learn the Indigenous perspectives from my teachers. We also engage with the community through stories. So we've run 10 community stories. These are really important ways for people in the public to connect to the work that we're doing. So really great observations by fishermen, duck hunters here, foragers, people that spend time on the waters, trappers. The observations and their stories that they have provided to us for this project have helped us to connect that back to the science that we're doing as part of the project. We also have community engagement. So this is various, either one-on-one, sometimes we're running workshops for youth, workshops for the general community. The top right images of Marianne presenting in a local pub. We've had artists like Christine Fitzgerald, who's in the middle lower panel, who's come to engage the public with, in this case, creating a collage of cyanotypes. We also partner with local organizations, the bottom right panel being one of the Great River cleanups that we've been involved with. So we try to bring the public in on many different aspects. We had great engagement with artists. So as I mentioned, Victoria Ransom created these unique drawings, and we were able to develop those into a book. Earlier this year, we had an art exhibition, which was very exciting. The art exhibition had Victoria's artworks alongside the cyanotypes that Christine Fitzgerald had developed. Stephanie Hildebrand is our photographer and our visual communications coordinator, and so she's responsible for all the visuals that you see in all the photographs in this presentation. Abram Francis is included in this as well. He provided poetry for this particular exhibition. Jerome Marty and his colleagues provided an artwork in the form of a soundscape. So we've had really, many facets, many different ways of engaging with the science through art and music. We also have a research assistant, Kate Schwartz, who's been providing us with scientific drawings. So it's just really great to see the art come into the project, and then in the way that we need to communicate back to the public. So as I said, if we're going to empower people to take actions, they really need to have the science provided in, in engaging, accessible ways. And so the team with the River Report spends a lot of time, once the science is done, the scientists collaborate with our artists and our communicators, editors, writers, to make visuals that can help to communicate well how we see the health of the system. We also have a teacher and educator, Emily DeRochi, who leads education programming. She's already completed a series of change makers. She develops materials for teachers to use. It's free to download off the site of our website, and it's targeted at grades 7 to 12. And we will continue to develop education materials as we go forward. So yeah, I made the point earlier that, if we're going to get people to engage, they want to be able to take action. And in those instances where we have scientific findings that need to impact policy, we make an effort to close that loop. And this image is of Dr. Marianne Perron with Abram Francis taking the plight of the American eels to Parliament and bringing that up as something that needs to be addressed. So the project is providing knowledge that empowers people to have informed conversations that lead to actions. And I wanted to reflect, after running you through a blur of the project, that I see our project much the way I see, the resilience that we get through biodiversity and having, in nature, to have a thriving ecosystem, we need all these different species that each play their role. And I see this project in the same way, where we have, along with the scientists, we need writers, educators, coordinators for outreach events, artists. We need many people to come together. And I've come to see this initiative less of a project with a, like an output of a ecosystem report, and more of something where it's something that it's more of an ecosystem. So we have all these experts that have come together, and I think it's I think it's working like a natural system should, and it's beautiful to be a part of and see everyone bring their unique gifts to the project. So a shout out to the team and to everyone who's been on the project to this point. I'm going to finish with this slide. I know today we're talking about this multivocality, bringing different voices, and in the context of Indigenous knowledge as well. I'm, as I said, very grateful to be learning from our Indigenous partners. And this particular image here is of a two-row wampum. So when people talk about two-eyed seeing, the cultural context for us on the Ganya Dalawanena, or the St. Lawrence River, is that of two-row wampum. So wampum belts are part of Haudenosaunee culture, and they represent different things. And this particular wampum belt is a representation of the river with the white beads, and then the purple beads are representing the original Dutch settlers and the Haudenosaunee canoe, and just teaching us, that this treaty is that each of these vessels can sail down the river alongside each other, but they are independent and sovereign, and they don't interfere with each other. And so I just wanted to add that context to this conversation before we move into the panel discussion, just to set the context for, where this project is embedded. This two-row wampum approach has been adopted by a sister project, shall I say, called the River Strategy, which aims for a beautiful and healthy St. Lawrence River and brings many partners together, and based on the principles of peace, friendship, and respect. So with that, I will say a big thank you to the team. These are the current members of the team that we have. Thank you to all our collaborators, to our funders, and also a big thank you to everyone who's come today to listen to the panel discussion. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you very much, Lee, for the great presentations and keeping us on time as well. That's fantastic. We're going to have now our last presentations from Julia Obuya. There are some common threats to the Great Lakes in North America, to other Great Lakes in Africa, in particular with regards to cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, which has been, I think, part of the research for Julia. So Julia, you're sharing your screen. I invite you to go in for perfect. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jerome. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Today I'll be presenting about some of the environmental challenges that we have in some of the African Great Lakes, and that is harmful algal bloom in Lake Victoria. And just going to give a brief overview of a two-eyed framework that we've been trying to use to understand its impact. So the picture on the background is about both harmful algal blooms and also water hyacinth. That are some of the common challenges that we experience in Lake Victoria. Okay. So yeah, I'm currently a PhD student at Bowling Green State University with an interest in aquatic microbiomes, and currently studying cyanobacterial blooms, both in Lake Erie and also in Lake Victoria, and trying to understand the comparative dynamics and what causes these blooms and how best we can come up with some management measures to help sustaining these lakes. And also, I'm also a research associate at Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, and part of the projects that we've been doing are in terms of water monitoring and also understanding the fisheries of Lake Victoria. So just a brief overview about the African Great Lakes. We have 7 beautiful lakes in Africa, and they span across 10 countries. And these lakes are vital resources that provide food and also water to the local communities, the riparian communities within the basin. And mostly about 90 million people within the basin depend on these key resources that they can harvest from these Great Lakes that we have. And so they are very important lakes that is sustaining the local communities in terms of food and also in terms of the economy of these African lakes. So narrowing down to Lake Victoria is the second largest freshwater lake that we have in the world, and it is shared amongst three riparian states, that is Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. And Kenya having the smallest portion of the lake, which is about 6%, but in terms of ecology, it is a key ecological part because most of the hotspots, like the breeding grounds, are currently within the Kenyan portion of the lake. So it is an important part of the ecosystem. And so it supports approximately about 42 million people with food, shelter, and also getting water for their livelihoods. And the management of this lake has been through national jurisdictions. The member states, they have their bodies, individual bodies that manage the lake, and also through regional bodies like Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization, Lake Victoria Basin Commission, and other agencies that are currently managing Lake Victoria resource. So parts of the economic activities that we have for the lake, the main economic activity that we have that the lake is providing is in terms of fisheries. And the lake currently has 3 commercial fish species that are currently traded for economic gain. And so we have Nile tilapia, Nile perch, and also Oreochromis niloticus, which is commonly known as daga or omena in the local languages. And other economic activities we have, the lake is being used by the local communities for watering their livestock. They use it for cooking. They abstract the water for cooking, bathing, washing. And also recently, we had the introduction of cage aquaculture in the lake, which is currently an initiative that is aiming to increase the protein source for the local communities because of the dwindling catches that we've seen in terms of the capture fisheries. So cage aquaculture is also coming up that also increases the food source for these communities. And in other areas also, they also do sand harvesting as other alternative sources of livelihood if the fisheries are kind of dwindling, and then they revert to maybe doing sand harvesting, and then they use those sand for construction and also building. And currently, we've also seen an emergence of some invasive species like the bivalves, like juvenile bivalves that are currently in the lake, mostly in polluted environments. And the local communities are currently using it as a resource now. And it's seen traded locally in the markets for poultry farmers. And they grind it and they mix it with other things like other food sources and then sell it to these poultry farmers as a food source. So for the emerging threats that we have seen currently in Lake Victoria, we have different kind of threats, and spanning from plastic pollution. We've seen plastic waste in our waters, fishermen going to the lake. Some who are environmentally conscious will come back collect plastics and then come with them ashore and dump them on the shorelines. We've also experienced cases where we have fish kills in the region, both wild fish and also fish in the cages. And these, from scientific point of view, it has been kind of linked to the eutrophication that we are having in our lakes. And reduction in oxygen concentration also in the lake has also led to some of these challenges that we are also experiencing in terms of fish kills. And also currently we are experiencing harmful algal blooms, which is now one of the major threats that we are currently facing. And mostly my topic of today is gonna focus on the cyanobacterial blooms. So for these blooms, we've seen cyanobacteria, just like in the terrestrial ecosystem, we have like plants that are the food base for the entire ecosystem. And also in the aquatic environments, we have these tiny small plants that we call phytoplanktons that are also providing the food for the entire ecosystem. And so with increase in nutrients and also increasing temperatures, some of these planktons are opportunistic and highly competitive. And so they grow out of proportion and bring now these, they bloom. And as a result, they cause a lot of nuisance to the entire ecosystem because there could be cascading effect down to other trophic chains. And so we've seen like the blooms have been reported since the early 90s and with intensification around 2000s. Originally, the diatoms dominated this ecosystem, but now we are seeing more of these cyanobacterial blooms that are becoming more prevalent, mostly along the gulfs, along the bays of these shores. And this proliferation is also kind of, as a result of these blooms, there are also certain interactions that they have with other organisms that can lead to toxicity of these blooms by producing cyanopeptides or cyanotoxins that might also impact human and also animal health. And these all these kind of increase in these bloom dynamics have been as a result of increased nutrient loading in our aquatic ecosystem and also climate change with climate warming, increased temperature being some of the major compounding effects that we experience. So in terms of the human impacts domain, we've seen like the human impacts kind of, it is kind of broad and the human can be impacted through various ways. The physical nature of the bloom, its distribution, location, and also the frequency and intensity of this bloom can impact human health. In terms of the social, the demographics, depending on the age groups and also health of people, the gender, culture, we know like in our local communities, women are mostly kind of doing most of the household duties. And sometimes there might be more users of the lake compared to the men. And so trying to come up with studies that can also understand how these dynamics are also affected in terms of these impacts of harmful algal blooms to the local communities. And in terms of economic domain, we've also seen in terms of fisheries, the fishermen also sometimes complaining that they go out and then come back with nothing. And some of them just come back with empty nets that are soaked in these green paint that we know. And so also tourists, because of the smell, foul smell of these blooms, sometimes when they decompose, it hampers local activities and so also tourism. So we, for what we've done in terms of research on harmful algal blooms, we've been trying to look at it in terms of two-eyed approach. And so we've been having two frameworks. One is the scientific knowledge, what we know, the science that we know about these harmful algal blooms in terms of the limnological data collection, collecting nutrient changes that we see. Through also support of our donors, we've also tried to do some work on testing, like sampling fish and also testing if there could be some impacts of this bloom to the fish and then their bioaccumulation into the value chain and also to human beings. And also other donors have also been helpful in terms of doing remote sensing activities, trying to understand the seasonalities of this bloom to help us in also designing our sampling strategies. And in terms of the indigenous knowledge, so we've also been talking to the local communities because they are the resource users. They are always in the lake every day. And it has been like ongoing work that they see what the blooms are, the seasons, and through those observations, they are able to tell us that the seasonalities of also these blooms and also just how the lake has been throughout. And it has been an impactful activity working with these communities because we are bridging now these knowledge gaps that we have, combining both the scientific, what we know in science and also what the communities know about these changes that we are seeing. So in terms of the scientific knowledge of it, there are lots of studies that have been done. We've been having like a reviewed literature on the biomass of phytoplankton that we've seen, and we've seen that it is highly dominated in these cyanobacteria. And then the dominant species that we have are species that we see are also producing kind of toxins in the water. So it is kind of an interesting thing to start understanding these. As a result, it might also impact the human health because of these production of toxins that we see in these species. Okay. So other studies that we've done together with our collaborative groups, we've seen like this study that was done by Hart et al. In 2025. This is a study that, no, we did it in 2022 to 2023. And these studies were trying to monitor the Wynnum Gulf of Lake Victoria just to see which species are kind of dominant. And so this study revealed that these two key species of cyanobacteria, the microcystin and the Dileucospermum, they have that, they did a biosynthetic gene cluster to understand which genes are in these species. And then when they did analysis and found out that they contain these microcystin operon, and this is a toxin-producing gene genera. And so it shows that in the Lake Victoria ecosystem, we are currently having these toxin-producing species. And so we really need to know how we can communicate this to the local communities. But other studies have also seen that it's not only the microcystin that we are currently seeing, we are also seeing other kinds of toxins, like currently the cylindrospermopsin. And these ones are also known to be target like the liver. There are hepatotoxins that are targeting liver and also the kidneys. And this study actually shown that 4 out of the 9 sites that they surveyed, these 4 sites exceeded the World Health recommendation limits for microcystin and also the cylindrospermopsin. And so as a result, we are starting to, and it was the first study that was ever done to highlight this problem of the new species that we see. Originally, it was not there in our studies. And so in terms of the indigenous local knowledge, what we've also done with the communities, we've been having like a community creating awareness about this algal bloom impact. Initially, when we did the study in 2022, these communities were not aware. They could say, yeah, we see the water turning green, but the health impacts, they did not understand what health impacts these green will cause. And so currently through focus group discussion and other initiatives, we've been talking to the local communities, and they're able to give this green, what they generally call it, different local names, and then describe its characteristics and which areas they think are affected. And they will even sometimes call back to the office and say, we've seen green in this location. So with this kind of knowledge, we are seeing the community helping us also to understand the severity of the harmful algal bloom, what probably remote sensing might not be able to help us because of some of the limitations of these scientific tools. And so also we did also some studies with the communities and the local researchers to understand which kind of the seasonality of this bloom. And it's indeed quite interesting that all of them kind of give us like these seasonalities. Most of them were kind of had similar opinion about when these blooms occur. And so it just shows us like putting community on board, of having them on board, can be a great way of bridging these gaps and also helping us to understand the lake and the challenges that we have holistically. So some of these perceived impacts that we've seen in terms of the harmful algal blooms, we've seen like fish kills, like on the shores, fish being choked and dying because of the reduction in oxygen concentration. Also, some communities have been reporting like loss of livestock and loss of livelihoods as a result of the use of this water. And as you've seen, the young man there is on the shores washing the plates using the lake as it is very green, as you can see. And so some of them will also complain about some diseases or skin irritation and also other health impacts. And we also wanted to understand how these communities are also kind of treating their water system, because they are saying it's a challenge, it's causing some health impacts. They've been having like gastrointestinal diseases, skin irritation, and sometimes respiratory illnesses, because it has been seen like some aerosols can also be in the air. People can breathe these blooms and causing now these respiratory illnesses. But the methods that they are using are very simple in terms of water purification systems. And these methods, we don't think they are able to kind of remove, probably can just remove the physical green, but removing now the toxin is another problem, because these toxins cannot be removed through some of these methods. And we've seen other studies suggesting that, or saying that even methods like boiling are kind of increasing the toxicity that we have, because it's opening those pores and increasing the toxicity to these people. So they have very simple methods of treating, but we are seeing that trying to be more conscious about the use of the lake. Some of the initiatives that we've also worked with these local communities, we've been trying to sensitize them, working with them, going to their homes, having small kits, testing their drinking water to understand or to see if there are some traces of some of these toxins in their drinking water. And these are just simple tools that we are using. And it was interesting that we also saw some tapped water having traces of these toxins. And so as a result, we've been trying to create awareness and talk to the communities and trying to help them understand the health impacts of these harmful algal blooms. And if possible, they can start using other alternative sources of water around the lake. So the ongoing monitoring and also research approaches that we've been having through African Lake Remote Sensing Network, we've been able to use remote sensing technologies and earth observation methods to be able to understand the seasonalities of harmful algal blooms. And also in ChemFree, we are also trying to do in situ data collection, like collecting chlorophyll, nutrients data that can also help us in monitoring our water and the lake. And currently, through our collaborators, we've also been trying to use molecular tools to understand what is happening in the lake. And these molecular tools have been found to be very important in terms of trying to understand what other tools probably were not able to see. So we are also trying to incorporate those in our monitoring frameworks to understand the broad depth of the problem at hand. And also through citizen science and community-based engagement, we've been working with these local communities, and there are initiatives underway that are trying to even develop apps that can help these communities to be able to capture photos of these harmful algal blooms when they occur, like in the lake, and then send it back to the station to be able to understand which types of species we have in the lake. The gaps that we are currently having, we've seen works that have been focused mostly on the plankton bloom, but the benthing cyanobacteria has not been studied. So we are thinking of focusing some of our research in trying to understand the impacts to understand the diversity of these blooms. We've also seen like these interactions that are causing probably production of these toxins. And so understanding the interactions within the ecological interactions in the aquatic microbiomes can also help us understand the breadth of these problems. Climate feedbacks and shock patterns, we are also thinking of probably having some studies that are able to understand, like in future, what might happen in 2 or 3 years with the climate change scenarios. And also coming up with maybe socio-ecological trade-offs in management, because we've realized that most of the people, like in Kenya, as of now, it is an agricultural kind of region, and we use a lot of fertilizers. And so what are the trade-offs in terms of the management? How can we talk to these communities in terms of managing this lake, not also hindering their resources, and also how they can get their local food? So in conclusion, we've seen like harmful algal blooms being a growing threat in our Lake Victoria. And so with this, it requires a multi-pronged action through both science, policy, and also community engagement. Working together with the community and also with science, it can create like those platforms to be able to understand this problem and in giving us a full overview or full picture of what is happening in the lake. And so with the healthy lake, we have healthy people and also healthy economy. So thanks to these project collaborators, we've been working in Kemfree, also through my university here and University of Windsor, through other studies that have been working on water quality related issues, African Great Lakes, ACARE. We've also worked through seen projects through Cornell University. One of the students there is working on the human dimension and is doing a lot of work actually trying to understand the vulnerabilities of these local communities in terms of harmful algal blooms. King's College London has also been helpful in trying to use Earth observation methods in monitoring Lake Victoria. And also other local universities, people are doing fragmented work all over. And so everybody is kind of interested in the bloom and also understanding what are the drivers and causes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia. It was great. You have lots of claps from all over the world on the screen. We have some time for questions now. To ask your questions, we invite you to use the Q&A box that is on your screen below our windows here. There's a number of questions that has been already submitted. I would like to highlight also the comments that have been made in the chat, including one about the upcoming UN Water Conference in 2026. Thank you, Nigel Crawhall. There is a link where additional resources on Indigenous knowledge and freshwater are available. And also there is a call to build up Indigenous people presence at the conference. So if you are interested into this, please follow the link that is provided in the chat. With this, we're going to start. Maybe I'm going to propose one question that will maybe cover some of the questions already provided in the Q&A. My first question is about the role of governments. We have one person that has asked Julie about what are the governments doing in Lake Victoria. It's complicated sometimes to manage freshwater, especially when we have shared governance. 3 countries for Lake Victoria, the Great Lakes, only 2 countries, but they don't seem to look at things in exactly the same way these days. And when we have also Indigenous nations, they have their own governments and structures. How do we engage when we are a community member and part of an Indigenous community? How do we engage with governments? How do we create these opportunities for increased management? And maybe I'll start with Lee with this, and then Julia, and then Elizabeth, maybe.
Sure, thank you. It's one of those challenges, like you said. We are sitting on Indigenous, territory where we are, and we have current day Canada north of the river, USA south of it, and we have these two provinces within Canada and a state within in the US. And so for us, trying to even get all the data together from these different governments can be tricky, and also the way that they collect their data can often be different. So understanding how, what is the health of the river from all these data sets, and then joining the dots back to, once we understand the health of the river, how do we engage with those governments and affect change, is something that we're finding, is it's actually different according to whichever topic we're trying to deal with. So we're lucky though where we are because we have really strong partnerships. So in fact, we are able to sit around the table with the ministries, for instance, on the Canadian side, and have those conversations. And often we've found that the ways forward, for instance, for making some headway into seeing if the recommendations that are coming out of the work we're doing can be taken up. It's quite receptive, you know, in terms of at least the provincial governments for what people are you know, willing to have those conversations. A little bit, you know, there was a photograph in the slides we showed of Abram Francis and Marianne Perron going to Parliament, and that can be, you know, that we hope for it to be effective, but it really depends on those individuals that we're going to have those conversations with the policy brief. So I say it's really how we close that circle on what we're actually trying to do, and it can be a challenge, especially when we're in, you know, these multi-jurisdictional areas and different bodies are the places to go to for the different issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. Elizabeth, how are people on the shore of the lakes you talked about handling governments? Is there any link on how to manage sediments? And that would involve both governments and the local communities.
Yeah, I mean, like actually, like after for like 10 years, threat of sedimentation in the area, especially when in 2019 in Santani and Jayapura we have flash flooding, and then it's really increased the sedimentation, and then actually the government with the bureaucracy help them to with excavator to take a lot of the sedimentation. But as I told you, when there's some place that if the locals keep maintain the sago palm, what is the difference between sedimentation it is low in the area, and then actually from the tribe people they have the customary what is the customary rule to manage the area. So I mean, like if they integrating the managing in the decision making, it will be better. Yeah, but sometimes not working well too. Yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Julia, and this question is linked to Kyushi, who has submitted, I think, the questions also online. What is the Kenyans' plan for BGAs?
What was the question?
There was one of the attendees was asking, is there a plan for Kenya on how to manage the blue-green algae?
So currently, we are still trying to understand the problem and understanding the spread of it in terms of the temporal spread and also the season. We've not done a full kind of year-round study to understand the different kinds of these blooms, all the species that we have. So currently we are still working on understanding the extent of the problem that we have at hand, and to be able to also sensitize these communities. And also we in terms of sensitization and also creation of awareness, we are doing this with the local communities. And in Lake Victoria, for instance, the Kenyan portion of it, we have like co-management initiatives with the government and also the local communities through beach management units. So with these beach management units, we are working with these they are the co-managers of the lake. And so we are working with them in trying to create this awareness to the local communities, because they have this kind of understanding of the region and also of the lake, and also the link that we have between them and also the government. And so those are there are small initiatives that we are trying to incorporate in our monitoring frameworks, and also trying to come up with, there are some studies, or there are some funders that are trying to create some apps that are able to monitor these harmful algal blooms. So working just with the communities now and understanding what the problem is at the moment.
Thank you, Julia. I'm going to turn to the floor, and Priyanka Jamwal, I think you have a questions that or thoughts that you would like to share. Can you unmute yourself? If Priyanka is still with us.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, thank you and very engaging presentations. So my question is to Julia. So this is regarding, so in India also we are working towards restoration of urban lakes, and we are facing this so monitoring is one thing. We monitor the lakes to see what is the health of the lake, but if we don't have clear benchmarks, how do we go ahead and manage the water quality of the lake? So I would like to understand from Julia, what are are there any benchmarks, or they are working towards the benchmarks? Because we clearly know that there is a relationship between nutrients and chlorophyll levels. Yeah, so this is the first question. And the second question is that when we talk about restoration, we have to work within, or cleaning up the lake or managing water quality, we have to work within environmental and economic constraints. And when we talk about environmental and economic constraints, as Julia mentioned, that the catchment is mostly agricultural catchment. So how are you interacting with the farmers, and are there any incentives built in for farmers to ensure that nutrients, application of fertilizers is reduced? Yeah, so I just want to hear on that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So the first question was about benchmarks, right? So currently, we do not have any standards or any benchmarks. We are still working, trying to understand what the problem is and borrowing from what has been done in other regions to understand what are these limits and the thresholds that we might experience. And so we are still trying to understand this extent and also the breadth of the problem that we have. We do not have the benchmarks at hand. And so we are working towards identifying those thresholds and also those standards that could help us in understand the problem holistically. The second question was about agriculture. Currently, we still don't have direct links with the farmers, and we've not talked to the farmers. We are trying to, through policy recommendations from the research that we are doing, we are trying to put that as one of the recommendations, that farmers needs to be kind of made aware about these challenges, that it is the impacts of the upstream, because they do not see the link. If you talk to them, they'll tell you the lake is downstream somewhere down there and farmlands are up here. So they do not understand that connectivity within the watershed. So these are, we need to start creating this awareness to be able to help these farmers understand that their impacts upstream are actually causing these problems that we see in the lake. So first initiatives is just to create that awareness before even coming up with subsidies or anything that can help in promoting these changes. Yeah.
Thank you, Julia, for answering the question. And we answered the two questions? Yes? It's good? Okay. We have a questions from Minket Lepsha about disasters. And it's a little bit outside of the scope of this water quality lake conversation. But Minket, do you want to ask the questions, or should I read it for you?
Maybe to answer the question unless I allow them to speak, so it'll be a bit of a mission. So maybe just read it out.
Okay, so the question is about the idea that more and more communities are facing disasters, such as floods, for example. If I understand, Minket might be close to glacial lakes in the Himalaya regions, in the mountains. And we're having these conversations where we share knowledge between Western and local indigenous knowledge. How can the communities benefit from sharing that knowledge when they are dealing with disasters? And I don't know who to ask first among our panelists, but yeah, what would be some recommendations that you would want to share?
I want to share based on the experience of Sentani Lake.
Yep.
Is it okay?
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, sure.
Yes, I mean, like, because we have experience, because as I told you that for the Sentani tribe, they have their life from the lake to the mountain. So they already have the area zone, for example, from they live in the above of the water, and then the river, the lake bank, and then the vegetable up to like 200 or something and something like. And then when in 2019, due to of the cutting of a lot of sagu forest to the road, to the building and settlement, in 2019 we have flash flooding, and then the impact of the flash flooding, the lake water rise to 2 and 3 meters. Actually, when the people still keep maintain the forest sagu, it is the natural the natural phenomena, the natural important. When the level up the water, the fish breeding in the side of the lake. When that come, it comes. So I mean, like actually, when they put that the problem, there is no disaster. But after they cutting down the sagu, a lot of disaster. So I think we can learn from that one.
Any additional answers from Leo, Julia, on this question?
Okay, so I also think that just being conscious of the problems that these communities are facing, I understand the communities, they also have their own priority areas. And sometimes you find that as researchers, we want to force our research on them. Like, you know very well they're experiencing these problems, and working together with them to co-create solutions and co-create research might be helpful in terms of also respecting their needs and also priorities in what they are actually having or is affecting them. So if flooding is the problem, you cannot force them to understand another problem. They need a solution for that flooding. So going to them, talking to them, and understanding how to come up with solutions together might be helpful. So planning this research with them could be useful.
Thank you, Julia. I'm going to share part of the questions submitted by Annika Schlamm. It was a question sent to Lee originally, but others can answer as well. And I'd like maybe to highlight the part B to that question, Lee. The River Rapport is made of many community members, and they have different views, but also different powers maybe. And how do we ensure that each community or each contributor is treated as complementary and equally with the valid expressions of knowledge?
Thank you. I want to thank Annika for all the questions that are there. And actually, I started to type and I was like, I hope, Jerome, that you ask me them, because then I can give a fuller answer. So, I'll also just touch on when you say how are these chosen, how are these different components chosen? And I'll say, in a way, that they chose us. We really did set out to respond to the community. So in terms of the science that we're doing, it's in response to community questions around the health. And in terms to the different components of engagement has also come to us from the community. So we've had community members or partners come to us to say, oh, we really would like to see more of this, or we don't understand this. And then we've engaged with other NGOs and government partners to say, oh, we really want to address this question. And so these different ways, of of engaging with the public, and also these different knowledges have come to the fore. And I'll say that, I think it's, I like to think that the framing of the project in Indigenous perspectives, which we're grateful to our Indigenous partners for putting it into this context, really communicates out that we are, as a project, interested in other ways of seeing the world, not just from that science lens. And I think once you've flipped that, so that it's no longer looking like a science project, it's looking like a community project, people have confidence to come to you. And so we've had members of the public come, for instance, with just a small anecdote or an observation or a question that they've brought to us, and the impact that has had has been greater than some data sets that were decades long. So I feel that the project has been able to welcome all the information and treat them all with respect. And I also can tell you that when you do it this way, everything takes a lot longer. So for instance, we'll finish a technical report and we'll communicate it back to, a data holder or a member of the public. And they'll have a different view, or they'll have a different data set or a different observation. And we've had to, always keep an open mind. And in many cases, it's just made it the output's richer and more complete, but it does take longer to do that. So yeah, I hope that answers the question for Annika.
Thank you, Lee. And maybe Elizabeth or Julia, do you want to add something, an answer to this question?
I didn't get the question, sorry, Jerome.
The question was, when you have different communities, how do you make sure that everyone is contributing in a respectful way, and that we respect the knowledge of each contributors when you have when you engage on managing, let's say, nutrients for Lake Victoria?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, the communities that we have, they are from diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds. And so just understanding that first is really important, to know what they believe in, their culture and everything. And also sharing the knowledge that we have in science and its importance and in terms of lake management and its sustainability. And just respecting their views and appreciating what they have and their culture and their knowledge. Yeah, sir.
Thank you, Julia. Elizabeth, do you want to add something, or?
Yes, little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, I think I agree with Julia and Lake. So I mean first of all, we have to learn about the character of each tribe, because every tribe, every people, they have their own perspective on anything. So, and then after that, we have to discuss we have to invite all the stakeholder, because I mean, when we talk about the lake, we not only talk about the indigenous people, but we will talk about the local government. We will talk about anything. So it's better when we want to what is concerned about the issue in one lake, we have to invite it all, even though from the indigenous people, from the local government, from the academic, from the journalists and anything. So when we sit together and we can see from the all perspective, and then we can get I mean, a whole picture of each other, and then it's make a better decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Oh, we have one raised hands from males Zulu. Maybe we'll allow it, and then I'll ask one last questions before we close. Thank you, males Zulu.
Hello, I'm Miles Zulu from Zambia. I just want to ask Julia, do researchers go back to the community after they've done their research and tell them that these are our findings, and how can we work together? Oh, the other question is, do all the researchers who go there at one time, you meet as researchers and discuss certain issues? Because I work in the community, and what I've seen is that many researchers will come to the community and do a research and ask them questions, but we have never seen anyone returning to come and disclose to the communities what their findings was, and how together the community and them, the scientists, to discuss on how they can solve the problem. So I've seen that because of that, that's why there are some confusion where people believe that these people, they've been coming and getting information from us, but it's not helpful. What I've seen is researchers, they will report to the people who gave them the money, but they will never come and report to the community. So how can we stop doing this, and to make sure that our research comes back to the community and you discuss the way forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. Julia?
Thank you, Miles, for that comment. And yeah, indeed, that is a problem, and it's a bad culture that we've also been experiencing. And so sometimes when you even go back to the field and you want to talk to the community, they refuse. They tell you, you people, you just come here, you collect data, but then you don't share that information back to us so that we understand. And so it is a culture that has been going ongoing, but currently lately we've been trying to go back to these communities and tell them what the types of research that we collected from them and relay this information back to them. And so we do this through like developing small fact sheets and also in their local language, like we translate this information in English version and also in other local languages. And then we take it back to these communities. And because we cannot reach everybody at the same time, we are using the beach management units who are kind of the gatekeepers, or I would say who are kind of the ones opening doors for us into the communities. So we use these beach management units and then sometimes we call a forum and then discuss these challenges that they have and relay that information back to them. So sometimes this information that is translated, it is like on pictures and we put them on their walls so that anybody who goes there around there can be able to understand that this is the information that was gathered from us, and now this is the response that we've received. And so we see them appreciating that, but initially it was not there, and the community used to complain, and sometimes will even chase researchers away because they feel like they are being used, their knowledge is being used, and then they are not getting anything in return.
Thank you, Julia. We are getting short on time, and we have one last question that we would like to ask to Danny. This event was created with World Lakes Day in mind. How is Indonesia hoping to celebrate World Lakes Day, and what are they hoping to highlight in their many diverse lakes? And this is a question that came from one of our colleagues here on the committee, Janet and Steve from CSIRO.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, let me just say that I'm very pleased to be listening attentively to this webinar and listening to all the questions. In short, I mean, we want, first of all, because this is the first World Lake Day, we want to raise awareness on the importance of lake and its all dimensions to all stakeholders across the board, especially for local community. That's number one. Number two, we also hope that we can encourage a concrete action at local level that can be supported by national government and also international partners. That's second. Number three, we also hope that we can mainstream the lake issue in the broader water agenda in the multilateral level. As you know, currently, the special envoy of water from the UN Secretary General is also from Indonesia, our former foreign minister, Retno Marsudi. So this is like a continuity from the specific agenda on water, on lake, and then we take it up into freshwater ecosystem, and then we take it up again into the broad water agenda. So of course, we also hope that we can maintain sustainability of this lake agenda in the long term. I thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much. With this, we are almost at time. I would like to say a big thank you, un grand merci to our speakers today, Danny from the Embassy of Indonesia, Elizabeth from Indonesia, Lee from Cape Town, but Cornwall, Canada, and Julia from the US, but from Kenya. Thank you, everyone, for attending all the questions that you have submitted. We've got a copy of your questions. This video is going to be recorded and be placed online on the website of I think WWQA ANAM. And I would like to thank all organizations, the team in the back, Anam Serliani from WWQA, Janet and Steve from CSIRO, and the mighty Mary Beth Neely, who is also in the back managing the questions. Thank you everyone for attending, and looking forward to having further conversations with you all. Please submit topics if you want. There is a way to reach us through the website of this event. Thank you.